Well, I mean, this is my second Aspire, and I think, it's a great place to come and meet people who are doing interesting work, who are using the tools, both the Ad Astra tools and the, what do you call the people who are?
Just using data, using tools?
No, your partners.
Oh, yeah, that are just, we'll call it our partner ecosystem, or yeah.
Right, so I can start again.
That's
So this is my second Aspire, and my first Aspire last year was a rewarding experience. It gave me the opportunity to meet people who are doing some really interesting work, both Ad Astra staff, who are doing some amazing work with data and thinking about how to advance the tools and advance what we can do with the tools that you provide. Astra Schedule, Platinum Analytics. My expertise is more in Platinum Analytics side, but it's important for me also to know the scheduling side, because scheduling and course capacity go hand in hand. So I came back to Aspire this year again and am similarly motivated. There are some really informative sessions, both for how to use the tool, how people have used Schedule or Platinum Analytics at their institution, also with spin-off strategic applications that they've been able to sort of morph the tool into helping them do certain things, and it's just a great place to come and meet people who are like-minded, who are motivated, and who are both on-the-ground problem solvers and sort of upper-level folks who recognize their problems but might not be able to articulate what those are or articulate solutions. And so it's a great place to mix and mingle and see where the future of higher ed technology is going.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to let you just maybe give us a little the Sac State narrative. So I think if you want to start at where you guys were from a capacity completion, the broken process of scheduling.
Hey, we weren't broken. We were amazing.
You call it whatever you want to call it. So broken,
we were
flawed,
at 102% capacity.
Not student friendly, yeah.
That's like A+, right?
Yeah. And then,
not student friendly.
We
totally
started looking at the course schedule work,
yes.
and realizing that we had a lot of business processes, we had a lack of data, we had to do this and dig in, and here's what we've been able to accomplish from a results perspective. Yeah,
so at Sac State, we had been longtime clients of Ad Astra on Astra Schedule, and that's been working really well for us, both for events and for room scheduling, instructional room scheduling. I really got involved when I was department chair of a small department but a large service department that provided a lot of GE, and there was a campus forum, and the Ad Astra team came to show us Platinum Analytics, and you had taken all of our data and then put it in really easy to see visual form, but everything was red. Which apparently is not good. And so I remember sitting in the audience with my colleagues looking at how you had interpreted our data for us about our course capacity, our enrollment patterns, our scheduling, our underutilized capacity, our overutilized capacity. And so there was yellow, and there was red, and there was a smidge of green where we had some balanced courses. And I remember thinking, what's the problem if we're at 102% capacity? That means not only are we full to the seams and rafters, but we're going beyond and offering additional capacity to our students where there really isn't any. And it took some time for myself and for us as a campus to come to terms with what that meant. It's easy to be at 100% capacity if you're starving your students of courses. And it took us a while to figure out that that's really what that meant. As academics, 100% is usually good. As economists, 100% full, 100% utilization of something is efficient. And so we were struggling as a campus to come to terms with the recommendation that you were providing of a sort of overall 85% fill as sort of the target fill rate, because that allows students to move. It provides the capacity that's needed, and it allows students to move and to find courses that they need when they need them. It was difficult for us to come to terms with that. As a state school, a regional state school, we're chronically underfunded. So to suggest that we should allow, in effect, to allow 15% of our capacity to go unutilized was a little terrifying, budgetarily. That looks inefficient. But from a student perspective, if we think about the schedule of courses, if we think about the availability of seats in classes, whether they're virtual seats or real seats or lab seats or community service seats, however we count those, if we look at the situation from a student perspective, it's almost impossible to get a seat under those circumstances, and then when you have one, you don't want to let it go. So we should not be surprised that we don't see students moving, and we see them planted in classes, whether they need those classes or not, simply because there's a seat there for them. So it took some time for us as a campus to really come to terms with our own data and what it was telling us, and to see this as a problem. And then it took a little bit longer for us to come to terms with how to fix that problem. When I became associate dean in 2016, I joined our strategic scheduling team, which at the time was the Platinum Analytics Strategic Implementation Team. An associate dean from each one of the academic colleges was on that. We had the director of space management. We had an AVP from student affairs who oversaw enrollment and registrar's office. We had our vice provost was on that team. We had the vice president of IRT was on that team. And it seemed like a large group, about 10 or 12 people, but we had a kind of critical intellectual mass and experiential mass, so that we could work with our Ad Astra consultants to see and interpret our data week by week by week and make progress and identify where we needed to clean our data or refine our GE rules or refine how we're encoding course capacity for individual sections. And it was the first time, I think, that most of us around that table were able to see each other's data. The way our systems work, I had access to everything in the College of Arts and Letters, but I couldn't see anything with regard to social sciences or natural sciences or engineering. I couldn't see what their struggle was. And so in this room, when we could see the analysis, the historical and the projected need and capacity need for the next semester, we could see each other's data. I could see how bottlenecked our natural sciences were in biology, chemistry, mathematics, statistics, every service area that they provide to the several other colleges. I could see our own bottlenecks in our college with regard to what we specifically serve in composition or oral communication. And we could start to have conversations about resources, about how we could help each other to mitigate some of those bottlenecks that were really causing delays for our students. I mean, you look at something and you go, that's red, that's a bottleneck, there's more demand than capacity, but to constantly remind ourselves and remind each other that what this is about is providing access for students. So we shouldn't be surprised if we don't have enough capacity for an introductory level course for the incoming students. Some will be delayed and not be able to have it until their sophomore year, but then they're taking seats away from the new incoming first year class. And so the bottleneck just kind of reiterates and continues. And so then we started having conversations about could some colleges offer curriculum redesign to provide courses that satisfy the same general education requirement. And we had conversations that were frank and open, hard conversations. I mean, your Ad Astra consultants were often very patient on the other end of that conference call while we hashed things out with each other, which wasn't always collegial. Well, no, they were tense conversations, but they were necessary conversations. And our poor vice provost, who now is our provost, we would beat up on him just about weekly, because he was the resource provider. If we needed to open additional course sections, he was the one that was going to be working with the provost to make sure to pay for it. As associate deans, we can work within our college to make sure that we allocate the resources we get most effectively and most efficiently. And so that's how that committee operated. I think it was hugely important on our campus that committee work effectively, and it built relations that then had spillover effect into other areas of the campus. So we build relationships, we build a culture of frank and honest conversations, hard conversations. We would look at each other often and say, why don't you just offer more capacity in that area? My students are getting slowed down. I can't graduate my students fast enough if they're sitting there waiting for 2 years to have access to the chemistry class. And so we'd have those hard conversations in a safe space and in a productive space, so that we would leave at the end of that session, in the time until the next session, try to work out what we could change, how we could implement and have some effect. So it was really productive overall. And I think on our campus it was and became the model for how to implement some of the software and technologies that we've been acquiring, which had not been done before. And so it's just been an overall very positive effect. We have, in that time, increased our average unit load across all of our undergraduate student levels. We are, I think our first year average unit load is 14.6 for this incoming class, which is almost ideal. It was maybe 3 years ago around 12.2, so that's a significant increase. We've increased our average unit load also for our seniors, which has been something we've been struggling with, to make sure that our seniors don't just take classes but have the right classes. And so their average unit load has gone up as well. We have gone from an 8% four-year graduation rate, which we were stuck at for about 10 years. And we are looking at this spring having a 24.6% four-year graduation rate. So in the 3 years that we've implemented Platinum Analytics and seriously used it and allowed it to help guide our conversations and guide our decision making, we've almost tripled our four-year graduation rate. And that's beautiful because as a California State University school, we have a state legislated mandate to increase our four-year graduation rate. Our particular campus target was 30% by 2025, there we go. And we're almost there for 2020. So hugely successful. This wouldn't have been possible. I mean, it would have been possible, but we would not have gotten there nearly as quickly, and we would have had to reallocate resources to try to replicate or come to understand ourselves in the same way without Platinum Analytics, without the support of Ad Astra. And so it's just made it so much better and so much more effective and lasting. So it's my always open window on my computer in my office. I always have the Platinum Analysis open. If I need the historical, I can refer to the historical. I have department chairs who are waiting patiently for the spring analysis, who I thought would never be interested in using technology, and they're now interested and motivated because they can see the value of the tool. They can see the value of moving from guesswork and ad hocishness and sort of static historical data to seeing dynamic data and seeing really from this time slice, what are our students looking for? Where can we make decisions and refine our schedule before students start enrolling so that we provide the capacity that we need, that they need in the courses where they need them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thank you.
I don't even know that we need much else. That's kind of really what we'll probably just
Cut it
trim
up.
that up a
Yeah,
little bit
sure.
and get the story and then have the piece for Spire.
One more thing that I think would be really good to
Okay.
get is talking about the new products that were released and which ones really caught her eye and stuff like that.
Have you guys looked at the new Align tool that has the inline collaboration stuff?
Yes.
Talk about how that might change this model of you guys all getting in a war room and hashing it out. It doesn't take away communication, but certainly it allows for documentation and inline communication related to the landscape.
Well, yeah. So as a member of CAB, we were shown this earlier in the spring, and I remember getting very excited. And seeing it again now at Aspire, much more developed, ready for prime time. The Align tool looks to me like it will be incredibly helpful. I don't think it will replace that war room kind of strategic scheduling. We got to look each other in the eyeballs and sit across from each other at the table to make decisions. But I think what it will allow us to do is live time make decisions. So far, the decision-making side of Platinum Analytics has been very static. We have the sandbox, we can play with it, but then we use our standard communications. I phone the chair of history or the chair of philosophy emails me and says, do we need more GE? And we have email communication or we have phone communication. And the Platinum tool sort of sits there giving us information. So what Align looks to me like it will add is live time engagement and decision making. So I could be sitting in our strategic scheduling meeting and we could be having a conversation about do we need more capacity? I can be working with my colleague from social sciences, and she could say, I can offer more political science sections if you want to offer more history sections, and then that'll help alleviate some of the bottleneck for the spring that we're seeing with regard to American institutions requirement. And we can live time then, I can send a note to my department chair in history, add 3 sections of this course. He can receive it, I can have that confirmation, we can sit down together, associate dean to associate dean, and make those decisions live time. And then it'll have that as a record, and it'll all be tracked. And I could also invite her to take a look at what we're doing in another area, perhaps another area of the GE that we share in common. I can pull her in on discussion about a particular course. Maybe it's a course that we co-teach, or that we share, that we rotate. We teach it in the spring, they teach it in the fall. And so we can have those communications both live and in person, but also through the tool. And then we have a record of it, which I think is really important, because often what I find is I'm making decisions and working with department chairs sort of as things happen, and then later on I go and update my records, or I update my spreadsheet about where we are with our budget allocations or what our targets are. And then I find, as my staff often tease me about, I've got to find the right sticky note on my desk for where I put that communication, or search through my email inbox to see where that email string left off. And this tool, I think, will just be so much more functional for me to then go back and look at what decisions we had made and how many sections we had agreed to increase, where we are in that track. That information goes to the scheduler, and then she or he can ping back that it was done, the sections are built. And so it's just all in one place that will make it easier for someone like me, who's got a million things going on, to remember what was done and what was said, so that we don't have to revisit these conversations next week or 2 weeks later. So I'm looking forward to it. And the dashboards, one of the things that's been a real struggle with trying to broaden and deepen the use of Platinum Analytics has been the spreadsheety feel of it up to this point. And so when you're working with humanities faculty who become department chairs, or science faculty who become department chairs, they're not necessarily, it's not visually impressive. It feels very spreadsheety. And if you're comfortable with that view, then you can see what's going on and you go, oh my goodness, look at this, and you can see right away. So the dashboards that are also going to be available, I think, will be impactful. And I think that will help those folks who don't operate well in that kind of spreadsheet structure to really see what's going on, and to have a clear picture of where they're making progress, of where the enrollment flows are going, of how things are tracking for a particular course or across a course group. I think that's really something that I'm looking forward to as well, because I think that'll just make it easier for so many more people who need to be using that tool to use that tool. So
Visualization, consumption.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we did great.